Make sure your insurance doesn't come up short. Get gap cover with ALA. For more information, follow the links in the description.
Hello everybody. When it landed back in 1992, the Renault Twingo was announced with no air conditioning, no power steering, no electric windows, no airbags, no ABS, no central locking. It didn't even have adjustment for the passenger mirror. What it did have was 4 seats, 3 doors, a 2-spoke steering wheel, and a price the equivalent of around £8,000. In other words, absolutely everything a consumer needed and nothing more. And with that, they had a hit. The car in its lifetime shifting near 2 million units. But on account of their dedication to efficiency, the Twingo was never sold in Great Britain. That hasn't stopped a bunch of very enthusiastic people from bringing them over anyway. And today, I'm driving this. Adam's 2004 Twingo Mark 1 Phase 3, and I'm going to be finding out what gives this car the va-va-voom. Enjoy. On account of the fact we never got it here, the Mark 1 Twingo isn't a car I really ever tend to give all that much thought. But when I went a couple of years ago to Festival of the Unexceptional, they were everywhere. There's clearly something about this car that just appeals to people, but a very particular kind of person. And you know what? If ever there were a car that gives me hope for the future, it's this. The humble Twingo. And that's because it seems to have found, much like classic Volvos, a real audience in the young petrolhead. Now you might automatically assume that today's social media adult teenager would just be interested in the latest, the greatest, the fastest and the most expensive, the Ferraris, Bentleys and Bugattis of the world. And those people definitely exist. The simple truth is, though, I think for the vast majority of people, the car we idolised as a youngster, for those of a certain generation in the form of an Athena poster, for others a desktop background on their PC, or even on your mobile phone, that was a car you knew you weren't going to be able to afford straight away. And when reality comes crashing through the door like the Kool-Aid guy on crack, you realise you need to scale down expectations. And that's where cars like this come in, because here you have all of the stuff you need to get you from A to B, but in a package which is still interesting. And there is so much to love about the Twingo. You see, as a card-carrying petrolhead, I love it when a manufacturer really goes to town with a single goal in mind. And that, I think, is when you get the very best cars ever made. Now, for some, it could be trying to build the fastest thing ever. That's how we get the McMurtry Spearling. For others, they might be trying to create the most luxurious experience in the world. That gives us the Maybachs and Rolls-Royces. However, when it came to the Twingo, what they were doing was trying to create the most economical car they could. And they did that from the very ground up. In the planning, the design, and the execution. Everything about the Twingo was built to make this a car both affordable to buy, but also to run. When it came out, there was just one engine option, one trim level. The body panels at the front and rear were unpainted. The antenna for the radio is integrated into the wing mirror, because by doing that, you can use a little bit less wiring. Many of the car's underpinnings were shared with the then new Clio, and between that and it, they helped to replace the aging Renault 4 and 5, with the more upmarket customer going for the Clio, and those needing something more economical going for the Twingo. But knowing this car was going to be for some their one and only car, Renault wanted to make sure it was practical. And so, despite the fact it's not a very big car, it's got a lot of room inside it. And so, the rear seats are mounted on sliding rails, something you do see now, but then was very innovative. It means you can have this car either as a 4-seater with a modest amount of boot space, or more or less a 2+2 with a bit more boot space, or should you want it, a van. You can see where Honda got the idea for the Jazz. Just this morning I drove another iconic French economy car, the 2CV, and that belongs to Adam's dad. No prizes then for guessing where he gets his love of quirky French stuff. And if a 19-year-old needed any more proof of their petrolhead credentials than bringing me this, I wasn't actually supposed to be reviewing his Twingo today. Instead, he was going to bring me his Fiat 126. But sadly, that's got some issues, and so we'll have to wait for another day. In all honesty though, I really don't feel shortchanged, because the Twingo is magnificent. And it's one of those cars where the more you read about it, the more you just fall for it. It already had kinda quirky styling, not anywhere near as iconic I think as the likes of the Renault 5, the 2CV, or the VW Beetle, but it's pretty instantly recognisable, if for no other reason than the trio of air vents in the bonnet over there, 3 as opposed to 2 on the Peugeot 206, the massive amount of glass in it helping it feel like a much bigger car than it really is, and in the case of this one, a very generously sized roof as well, which actually I have to say works really well because it's basically fully open now and you get nearly no buffeting, certainly at regular B-road speeds. The turning circle's allegedly pretty good too. Let's put that to the test, shall we? Yeah, it's good. Because these are all imports, and if you don't want to buy one, I'd highly recommend a CarVertical, because that will cross-reference a number of databases from around the world to tell you whether your car has a hidden past. And if, like me, when looking to buy something, you build a little shortlist of possible purchases, if you buy a multi-pack from CarVertical, you'll get up to 50% off. Just use my discount code JayEmm, and in 60 seconds, it will give you everything you want with either a registration number or a VIN. For more details or to use the service, follow the link in the description down below or download the app. And like the 2CV, though this wasn't anywhere near as long-lived, in its time it didn't change dramatically, never receiving a formal facelift, but it did evolve. And so there are 4 distinct phases of the car. The first was made available to consumers in 1993 and went on until 1998. The second phase lasted only a short while, going until 2000. Before this, the phase 3 arrived. Then finally, in 2004, we had the final iteration, which took the car up until 2007 in certain markets, and in others all the way to 2012. In 1996, the engine received an update, then a short while later, they gave it a second option too, a 16-valve. This is the lower-powered 8-valve, having just 60 horsepower, but with the car weighing, depending on how you specify it, anywhere around the 900 kilo mark, it's not that bad. And helping get all of that power to the front wheels, you have, in the majority of Twingos, this 5-speed manual, which is actually a very nice gearbox. Kinda long throw, as you'd expect, but very little play and a beautiful action. In its time, they also gave the car no fewer than 3 different automatic options, including, in the early days, the Twingo Easy, essentially the same setup as in the Saab Sensonic, so you still had a 5-speed manual gearbox and gear lever, but just no clutch pedal, the car doing all of that for you. Later, you then got a 3-speed, more traditional automatic, and then, towards the end, another attempt at an automated manual. And here's the thing, like a great many economy cars before it, the Twingo, perhaps because of its simplicity, is brilliant when you want to have fun. I actually don't think I've driven many cars that are so well judged on a road like this. Sure, in terms of firepower, the car's lacking, but you knew that already. What's impressive though is the handling. And I love the fact that this car is set up so that around town and at low speeds, it's not crashy, it's not bumpy, it's still relatively compliant. Yet, when you get on it, that doesn't then turn into a problem. You don't begin to worry about what exactly the car's going to do. The steering too is quite direct. The turn-in is really keen. It's got that go-kart feeling you want of a nice small hatch. It's kind of criminal they never really made a hot version of the original Twingo, because I think it would have been brilliant. Unsurprisingly though, there are a few people out there who've taken it upon themselves to build the car that Renault never did. With the roof open, the lack of air conditioning isn't even bugging me that much, and it probably should. It's very warm today, near 30 degrees. Brakes are decent, nice and progressive. Engine doesn't rev up too quickly, so heel and toe is not as easy as you might think with the pedals this close together. Unfortunately, the steering never rises to the level of greatness you might hope for a car like this, but it's still very good indeed. For a first car, or first fun car, you could do an awful lot worse than this. In fact, I particularly love the notion of some young person finding one of these for sale on the continent and deciding to make an adventure out of picking a car up. That really is what it's all about. I love it. And even better, as you would expect, it is very economical, both in terms of fuel consumption and even insurance. This costs Adam, at 19 years old and with one claim, just £500 a year. Spare parts are available. Pricing is generally reasonable, though this morning we did have a little bit of a panic, because when Adam arrived, the car smelled of rotten eggs, and that often is a sign of a failing catalytic converter. The other thing it can be a sign of is a bad battery, a very bad battery. And when we opened the bonnet here, we realised the battery was fizzy, and batteries should be many things, but fizzy is not one of them. Luckily, while I was filming the 2CV, he popped down to the car parts store with his granddad, got a new battery, and here I am. This is wicked. I love this car. Grip's fantastic. But I love how low down this glass goes. You can park this car, I think, just about anywhere, because the shape of it, the fact it's not got parking sensors, isn't an issue. Even the fact it's left-hand drive doesn't really feel like an issue. It's a thoroughly genius piece of design, this. My buddy Will would be all over it. And I know he'd fit, because Adam is 6'4", and yet he's still got room in this. That's impressive. In keeping with the theme of design efficiency, the dashboard is an ode to simplicity. So in front of you, all you actually have is a strip for all of the warning lights, which mercifully currently is blank. Your speedo you'll find right up here, Citroen C4 style, though this did it first. It's bright, clear, easy to read, though doesn't seem to have a very high refresh rate, I'll say that. Perhaps unsurprisingly, Twingo people are a little bit unusual, and so today, the ones they tend to prize the most highly are the ones with the least things in them. In fact, the very first of the models are the ones today considered the one to have. But they're rare. Being older, they are of course the hardest to find, having suffered from various different maladies over the years, such as rust and, well, all of the other things that can happen to a car over time. In truth though, for a modern car buyer, even this will feel fairly basic, despite the fact it's got some luxuries like an airbag. That only became standard fit from 2000. You've got electric windows and controls down here for your radio. This particular car was actually supplied new to the Netherlands and only came over relatively recently as part of a convoy being driven by none other than Adam C. I don't think he drove this exact car, but apparently he's quite a Twingo fan. That I didn't know. Thought he was mostly into white chasers. hey ho, that's the power of the Twingo, isn't it? It's one of those cars that can kind of unite people. It's one of those cars that brings us petrol heads together. Whether you're into American muscle, Italian exotica, or Japanese goodness, I think there's something everybody can find to love about a Twingo. Although I must say I was confused this morning when Adam turned up with Flat Eric in the back seat, because I knew he was way too young to remember him in his prime. He's retro, don't you know? I think I just felt another grey hair coming. Anyway, I want to say a big thank you to Adam for coming out, to his dad and granddad as well, making this a real family affair, and to you for watching. What else should I drive that's a real cool, common car for the people that's still actually a brilliant drive? I did the 2CV, I've done this. Up next, I'm driving a Daihatsu Grand Move. Nowhere near as long-lived or as popular, sadly, but still cool. Anyway, if you've got something interesting to say about the Twingo you'd like to share with the rest of the class, hop into the comments section. I will see you there. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you for the next one. Bye-bye.